All right, so it looks like for whatever reason we were disconnected for a short minute, and let's refresh the page and get back up. So we are up again,
Yep.
and so yeah, so I apologize for that. And so what I'm starting to guess and assume is that utilizing a third-party application to connect all this together could be part of the reason because the internet is working smooth. But other than that, we'll just keep moving and we'll keep going and pick up where we left off at. So I apologize for that. And so, of course, as we get to chit chat, more people get back into the mix, and of course, we make edits or whatever on our end if need be. But I forgot the
Yep.
last thought we left off with. Do you remember what we were talking about last?
Well, we're just talking about inflation, and pretty soon, it's going to pick up speed,
Mm-hmm.
and then, it's going to become a desperation because it's two things. One is getting out of the dollar, and then two is panicking into gold.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
you know,
Now watch
so
this. Speaking of which, let me. I want to pull up. I actually have something on the screen. Let me fix this because I wanted to show you the divergence in metal accumulation out here. So let me pull this up. Let me see where my window at.
mhm.
Nope. So it's not. I'm showing you on my screen. Give me 1 second.
Okay, I'm going to get to chat while you do that.
Okay, here we go. So I wanted to show. So as a part of the visual aid I showed a moment ago about the end of Fiat and what Germany is doing, here's a good visual aid here that kind of shows the divergence in one being appreciated and the other one being discredited. And so, just the very concept of gold reserves over over the entire world itself has gone up substantially,
Mhm.
as well as the selling and liquidation of treasuries as a core anchor of world reserve holdings by governments or whatnot is clearly depicted in this graph here, to
Mhm.
where gold will continue to go up as things become more questionable or uncertain, especially on a geopolitical sense.
Mhm.
Not only with its social aspects, and then we got on a financial end of things with the repo market and things you were mentioning earlier. But yeah, look what's taking the beating: U.S. quote unquote safe assets. And so pretty soon, I guess the world will catch on that the whole concept of safe assets or what's not safe will be revealed, and it's going to be unfortunate in things that are related to promises of having to
Mhm.
pay, whether it be short term or long term. Yeah, the unfulfillment of those promises is what this sell off in treasuries is telling me. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. And it's going to end up being who's going to be the last person holding the bag because, it reminds me of that Pink Floyd song "Time," and it goes, nobody told me when to run. Right, you missed the starting gun, and that's the thing because, if people don't start taking action to prepare for these things that are coming, they're just people are not going to recover from this at all.
Yeah.
Just like they took that hit in 1934, I think another hit is coming, and a lot of people just will simply not recover from it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what I think when I see that graph, and I don't think it getting any better. I think it getting even more desperate.
Yeah, I do agree as well. I do agree as well. So, like, before we move any further, let's kind of check in with the chat and see any questions or any thoughts out there. As always, there's a phone line, 4567 336 0844. Give us a call. We'd love to hear your thoughts on
Yep.
what we're talking about here. And if you have anything else worthy of mentioning, feel free also to let me know so that we can make sure we get your questions or thoughts shared and answered. So, Paul, anything popping up on your
Yeah.
end?
Yeah, I'm just making sure that we're okay. I see some general comments going back and forth, so that looks good. So I got hi from Ontario, Canada. We got some new people in as well that I didn't see in the stream that got cut off just a few minutes ago. So I think we're good on our end. Just piggyback on that point before we jump in there and welcome an additional people. This is coming, but they don't want it to come.
Mm-hmm.
Like an article that I saw today, the headline was talking about they're delaying the decision on delaying Brexit. I mean, this is what we've come to. Last week, I produced an article about the U.S. Treasury sanctioning some people for avoiding sanctions. So it's just we're so far removed from reality right now that it's like, well, hello. I mean, that's the whole reason that they are getting sanctioned because they didn't want to get sanctioned, and they're not going to just start obeying it now. So it's just a mess right now, and governments are just we call it kicking the can down the road, and I mean they're just kicking it for as long as they can kick it. But I just wanted to throw that little mini rant in there.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, when it comes to kicking the can, that's not even a solution. That's the only option because you can't resolve or bring this Ponzi scheme of an economy slash monetary system down for a soft landing. I mean, it's grown too big because it's a globally connected chain of events that will probably occur to where there is no solution. So the furthering of the can kicking is a political policy. So monetary policy and fiscal policy will result in kicking the can. And so while they're kicking the can, that buys you a little bit more time to make preparations on your behalf, because ultimately your financial livelihood and your future is dependent upon you. It always has been. I think it's more so we've been conditioned to accept the control and the role that the government and central banks have played in our lives with providing a false sense of security. But more people are experiencing that reality shock right now, I think. So, so yeah, it boils down to you making decisions for yourself and your family and your household. So,
yes, because the whole thing about a gold standard, right, is that you can't go parabolic on the debt, right? You can increase your debt, right, because there could be productive uses for that debt that people want to, take on the risk of getting a loan, but just in general. But since there's no currency backed by anything anymore, and that'll bring us into the Libra here in a minute. But since there's no currency backed by anything anymore, since it's a fiat debt-based system, the debt has to keep growing because there's no way to get rid of the debt because it's not redeemable, right? So you can't turn in that debt and get gold with it, right? You have to just turn in that debt for more debt instruments in the dollar.
Right, very true. Now, as you're talking, I was reading through some of the chats, and Rocco G says, silver doctors. A lot of news about countries increasing their gold holdings, but how about their silver numbers? And so I would assume and definitely could imagine silver is included in that, not only from a monetary standpoint, but more so from an industrial standpoint, as I'm assuming, like especially the Eastern nations that are heavy manufacturers of electronic goods, they, I'm sure, are accumulating massive amounts of silver that, unfortunately, I don't have any graphs in front of me, but yet, just because silver is needed for more than just monetary purposes, would probably lead me to believe that there's more of a need for silver than probably gold, because gold is just going to be used as an international anchor for trade or whatnot amongst nations or whatnot, but silver will be used in everybody's lives. And so I definitely imagine the numbers are probably a lot greater than. What do you think, Mr. Habdallah?
Yes, and there are definitely nations that are stacking silver too. Do you remember in 2017 when like those gold bars accidentally dropped off that Russian cargo plane or whatever it was?
Yeah.
But what was there? There was a ton of doré silver, like 90%. And it's funny because right around that time, we were getting insider reports about the big, like, I can't remember for at the time, I can't remember what it was because I'm thinking back on 2 years now, but it was either like the bullion dealers or the mints. I think it was the refiners. The refiners were literally melting down. So they were going through the extra steps to melt down 90% constitutional silver and sell it as 90% doré bars in the international market and make more money than they could just selling it as, partially semi. You could kind of call it numismatic since it's vintage like that. But instead of selling it for the investment silver style. So in the 90% coins itself, my point is that they could get more for it by going through the additional step of melting it down and selling it. But so Russia had a lot of that kind of silver. There's a few people that are good at this, which is like Steve St. Angelo is good. Louis Camarsano is good. Matt from Silver Fortune is good. As far as like looking at India, right? India's been mad stacking silver. So yes, the interesting thing about the silver though is we hear it here and there and here and there, but it's not quite, gone to like the epic levels that gold has. But then again, silver's not that tier one asset under Basel III rules. So it's coming. It's just a delayed step.
Yeah, I do agree. And so it looks like in the chat here, low blood pressure says try calling. So the phone lines are available. And so I don't see that I missed a call. So try calling again and hopefully it goes through. But once again, utilizing a third-party application to receive phone calls. So yeah, it's unfortunate. And so somebody also made a good comment here about silver doctors. What will we do? It says, what will we do basically if YouTube shut down operations or we couldn't stream no more? And so I personally have been looking into a lot of additional alternative type of options for streaming. And so we're definitely going to be rolling out some opportunities for people to connect with us because there's a lot of up and coming decentralized in nature, not on a single server type of products out there for streaming and posting content that has more of a open-minded provides more of an open-minded window for people to share their thoughts that's different from mainstream narrative. So I'll be definitely working on some things like that to put the channel there. So be on the lookout. And then what else? There's another here about there's another question here I saw that I wanted to throw out to you. Where does it go? About derivatives or repo market. Okay, so no, that's not it. Yeah, I saw. Do you have any countries increase? No. Anyway, so we'll get to it. I had a question, but I got sidetracked. So,
Okay.
but yeah, let's keep it moving right away. Keep it moving forward. Here's a question, Alex Miles. It says, how do you think the actual liquidation of precious metals would occur, hand to hand, selling to industries and institutions, or what?
I'm not too sure the context in that.
So I'm thinking, I just from reading that, I'm assuming that he's talking about when it's time to put the metals back out into use, because we see all the accumulation by governments and central banks on getting their weight up. How will they then disperse that or get it back out or reestablish that line of credit or confidence amongst institutions globally? Was the question I'll throw out to you. What methods do you think they will use or implement to reestablish trust after everything has crumbled down?
Well, that's a good one, because is it going to be like, if you're going to liquidate, are you going to get the banks involved and have everybody come in and bring their metal to the banks and, reliquify the banks and go back on a gold and silver standard like that? Or, because if once trust is lost at that point, it's hard to regain that trust. I like what happened at the very beginning of the country, where an ounce of silver is an ounce of silver, right? So there's two ways that I like. The one way that I like is an ounce of silver is an ounce of silver, right? Our dollar was based on the Spanish milled dollar. And as a matter of fact, during the very first Coinage Act of 1792, you could spend a silver dollar or you could spend the Spanish dollar at the same. They were one and the same. So it was because it was a specific weight and purity. I also really like Hugo Salinas Price's idea, where it's not a face value that's stamped on the coin, because until you find that equilibrium of where it should be, as far as the fixed weights and measures and things of this, then you don't really know. So it's kind of like an exchange rate at that point, because you don't want to lock down a $1 face value on that coin when everybody knows it's not worth $1.
Right.
So how would that look like? It's going to be a mess. I mean, it's going to be a mess, and it's going to have to be a coordinated event one way or another. And we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But I think it's going to involve a lot of chaos and a lot of protests to get there.
Right, I do agree. And so let me. So it looks like low blood pressure attempted to call again, but unfortunately nothing's ringing on my side, so nothing I can really do about it. But I'm gonna try to give him a call back and see if we can get him on here, because he gave us a number.
Yeah, because my point with that was 1933. Everybody was instructed to bring it to the banks, right? So there was a plan that was in motion. So I imagine it would be similar in that sense. But then again, the other thing goes down to, well, if it's the same corrupt politicians that are in charge of bringing this new system in, how could there be trust anyway? Right? Especially when they're telling us everything's fine, there's nothing to worry about. Buy U.S. Treasuries, knowing that the dollar is about to implode. So I mean, they're not going to trust me, which is interesting, because it's going to get us to a couple of these points here with Zuckerberg and Libra and trust and all that.
Yeah. Okay, so let's touch on Libra, because I'm not sure if it's ended already, but I was watching the Mark Zuckerberg hearing before the Finance and whatever committee, and just one of the things is it's always good to get a sense of what the room temperature is like amongst the political figures up there who are reading pre-scripted, applique or pieces of paper that are probably given to them by whoever knows, because a lot of questions they were reading off, I don't think they are smart enough to even be willing to ask those questions. But listen to Mark Zuckerberg and how composed he was and how he just looked real on edge. And so, but one of the biggest takeaways was the fear in the room of something that poses a threat to the dollar dominance, and the role that the dollar has played in our monetary system was very apparent, because a good portion of 3 or 4 of the politicians stressed how decentralized in nature Libra really will be or not, and then how will that influence U.S. policymakers' decision on sanctioning the world. And so one of the senators, I think it was Senator Sherman, who, and a lot of them were very stern and very borderline rude to Mr. Zuckerberg. And so I think Senator Sherman, who's one of those crypto, he's one of the guys that just hates Bitcoin. He just hates the concept of it. And he even mentioned how sanctions has been the only way that the U.S. has been able to make sure that terrorism and those nations that don't abide by the U.S. whatever can actually be controlled. And so he's like, what about sanctions or something like that? So I'm thinking like, man, like never nuts about how it gives people options out of a dying system, or they're concerned about a dying system. They're just like wanting to keep control to the very last penny. And it was very disturbing, to say the least.
Yes. So, Mr. Zuckerberg, if we implement your Libra, how are we going to stamp on humanity's face with a boot forever, right? I mean, it's like, this is scary stuff. A homeless guy, when I ran the soup kitchen, told me once, he was like, you get just as many flies with sugar as you do with the S word, right? Yeah. And that's true, right? I mean, we're sitting here bringing down the iron fist on everybody, and maybe just like a little different approach would be a little bit better, and actually get some progress in the world towards peace and things of this nature. But, what do I know, right?
Yeah, that definitely would help to have some options. But yet, once again, the goal is to keep everybody within the system with very little options and to keep them dumbed down to there being anything of an option in somebody's mind. But yet, if you're watching this channel, you obviously know what real money is, where we've been headed, and you can kind of got an idea where all this is heading. So,
yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I sent you that document. This is like from Zero Hedge's post thing where they uploaded the prepared testimony, but this is like Mark Zuckerberg's testimony.
Let me see.
You know how they have like planned remarks. But so I know you were taking like the government approach, which is scary in and of itself, because they're talking about how can we bring the hammer as opposed to how can we, have something better.
Yeah.
But Mark Zuckerberg's, his is equally scary, but for different reasons, right? Mm-hmm. Like in the third paragraph, he's like talking about there's 14 million people that are shut out of the financial system. We need to bring all these people back into the financial system. Well, hello, that's the problem, right? We don't want to bring all these people into the financial system. The financial system is the problem, right? Some people want to opt out of the financial system.
Right. Now,
right? Some people don't want to be in that.
Now, so to piggyback on that very same comment was brought up several times. And it was one of the African American politicians that was hinting at what point did you really start caring about the unbanked? Like, he was like, is this really about the unbanked? Because to my knowledge, he's like, Facebook having such a global presence, he was saying that, how much have you already allocated according to your profits to help out the unbanked in third world countries, whatever. He was like, how much? And then he gave us a chance to answer. He's like, at this current moment, I'm not sure of that. And then Congress was like, I'd be willing to bet probably none at all or zero.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that gets me every time, because that's like the first thing that people come out. It's like, oh, all these, this is great because people in Zimbabwe are going to be able to save and they don't have to save in Zimbabwe dollars. Well, first of all, people in Zimbabwe don't have savings, right? I mean, it's not like you've got a fat savings account and you're earning 0.001%. You don't have any savings at all, right? So all of this whole bringing this crypto stuff to the unbanked, it's really lunacy when you think about it, because they don't have savings. So it's not like you're having a store of wealth, because there's no wealth to store. It's the third world for a reason. Yeah. Then on the other hand, if you're talking about the fees involved to it, well, that takes it away anyway, because if you're talking about these microtransactions with fees that cost more than the transactions in and of themselves, that's not a good thing for the unbanked either. Yeah. So there's just a lot of problems with it.
And so in watching the whole Mark Zuckerberg aspect and listening to how he's attempting to separate Facebook from Libra and the nonprofit aspect. And so the politicians were really trying to drill down as to, so who are the shareholders? Who actually owns this, that? Who makes the decisions? And how, what if they decide to lessen the percentage of dollars in the basket of currencies, and perhaps the renminbi was to get more say so, then what? And how would that benefit the U.S. and how would that benefit you personally as a company? And so it's interesting because there was no clear answers other than just me getting a sense that this is all a deliberate attempt to shift us into the next world order digitally by utilizing something that has popularity already, which is social media presence, and the fact that they have 2 billion plus members or subscribers, and that through WhatsApp and Facebook, people will be able to send digital units, whether it be Libras or whatever else, back and forth to one another in another centrally controlled fashion, like similar to what we have now, but yet it's going to be solely digital through a cell phone or a tablet or whatever, which only lessens your options of being able to choose whether you want to participate or not. Because if you're forced to, do transactions through a phone only, you have very little say if they decide to just cut your payment method off. And so a lot of questionable things.
This is one of those things that also really gets to me and bothers me big time, right? Because here's the thing. Like, my wife is from Mexico. She's an American citizen now. We've been married, like, how long? I can't remember. 18 years now. But, so I mean, obviously there's family back in Mexico. So we send money for, like, Christmas gifts or whatever, so because obviously we're not sending the gifts because the mail can't really be trusted in Mexico. So we send money. We use this app called Zoom. It's like Zoom. Here's my point, Mike. You can send any kind of denomination you want, basically. Obviously, we're sending pesos, right? We're using our U.S. dollars. It's converted through Zoom's exchange or whatever into pesos, and they get pesos. Mike, it costs $5 to send. It's in the bank account in 1 hour, Mike. 1 hour. I mean, it's already super convenient and super low fee with what's out there right now. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, if it's such a dire need that you got to have this money in the next 20 seconds, well, maybe that's not really the real issue that we're talking about here. Because if you can't wait 1 hour to get, money from a foreign country, then there's something wrong with what your immediate dire situation is.
Yeah.
But so think about that. There's already these systems where you can send this stuff all around the world instantaneously, bank account to bank account, super low fees. This stuff is already there.
Yeah. Now, as you were talking, I pulled up Libra, the wallet, and so. I had questions about it, so I was thumbing through it before we went live, and so I have a picture up on a screen, and the primary benefit that Mr. Zuckerberg mentioned several times was what's on the screen now. It said it's easy. Send money the way you send a message or a photo. And so here's a young lady with a phone in her hand, and she's texting her dad, and then her dad's going to respond by sending her $100 or whatever. and so basically through WhatsApp and the Facebook messaging service. So basically, Facebook owned assets, WhatsApp and Facebook, which has billions of people on it, is a gateway where people will be able to send transactions back and forth in a basket of currency. And so it's being positioned as a good option for humanity. But like always, everything always eventually evolves. And when it evolves, it just becomes more what's the kind of word I'm trying to use? It becomes more of a problem for the very same people that it was meant to benefit, because when special interests get involved and whoever the 21 node holders are, they're all big corporations. They're going to have to begin finding ways to monetize and to earn off of people's data that's being transferred back and forth. It just spells trouble all around. But it's unfortunate that I believe that this is where we're heading because of all the chaos. Like this type of options, people will accept with no problem because it's convenient and it's being positioned as a way of making your life easier. And people prefer convenience over going backwards and having to do things in a way it used to be done with actually physically having to hand things and being patient enough to wait, as you say, longer than an hour or a day.
It's less than an hour, Mike. It's because it gives you a text, right? It gives you a text and it says like your transfer is underway, and then it'll say like your transfer has been complete.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't remember if it's it's been a while, but it's coming up on Christmas here soon. But there was a thought that I was going to go with that, but I can't. Oh, yeah, the convenience is for the banks. That's the other thing. Like when the Fed is talking about, they're doing what's good for America, they're doing what's good for American banks, right?
Yeah.
When Facebook talks about what's convenient, it's what's convenient for Big Brother. Because on the same token, what happens if you get some sort of fee, right? Like, or, there's like, I've seen this like pop up like little places, like fees where you wouldn't think, like, like if you miss like your child's dental appointment, they're going to charge you like $50 for missing. You're like, what? They're going to charge me for missing, So it's like, there's like little fees everywhere that people are. So when you have a currency like this, that is completely digital, who's to say that these corporations just can't go in there and pick out what they say that they're owed and there's a fee.
Yeah.
Here's another thing I was talking about with Keith Weiner yesterday. He was talking about Nortel's bankruptcy. And he was saying, and here's the point with that. He said that they filed for bankruptcy in 2009, and it's still ongoing to this day. Remember we talk about FDIC, and I talk about how long is it going to take all this stuff to settle out, right?
Yeah.
Well, so say you go to like, a Facebook, taking it one step further, and, all of a sudden the bank's got a dispute with you, and you owe them a $35 fee, and they just pull it right out. How long is it going to take you to get that back? Or like even when you do something now and you go to a store, how come is it that you buy something and they immediately take the funds out of your account right away, but you go to take something back and it takes like 5 days before you get your money back, right? So none of this stuff ever favors the little guy, the person on the street. The only things that this stuff favors are the big corporations that are trying to scalp every little penny and fee that they can everywhere.
Yeah, that's a good point there. It takes seconds to put in their pockets, but it takes days. If not weeks, and paperwork, and you got to call customer service and prove it's your money. And
yes.
Unfortunate. Go ahead.
Before we move on, Mike.
Okay.
Since we're talking about money, we're talking about fees and stuff. SD Bullion, they sponsor us from time to time. They sent me 3 awesome links. Yeah. And I want to share these links because this is not even to purchase anything. These are 3 giveaways that they're doing, and they're so awesome. I haven't looked into the complete details about this, but the first one is about winning a free trip to the Royal Canadian Mint.
Yeah.
And that would actually be really cool because, I think that the 2 like leading edge mints, as far as the design goes, I think that those would be the Perth Mint or the Royal Canadian Mint. And I say that because, there's the Queen to deal with on the one end, but on the other end, they're actively in these designs every single year, right? It's not like, the Libra where they change it every, how knows how many years, or it's not like the American Eagle where it's just been the same ever since. The only thing that changes the date, and every once in a while on the rim, like in 2016. Yeah. Or the Reeve for that matter. But like the Royal Canadian Mint, I mean, they've got some innovative stuff, and they were like one of the first ones to work with those privies and that really cool stuff. So that would be a really cool thing to get in on. And that's free. You don't have to buy anything. It's free.
Just sign up via for the looks like we're here for the sweepstakes here just by entering your information there. And if you're a lucky winner, hey, you get a chance to educate yourself further and get a free trip. So nothing wrong with free. And this when it's free.
Yeah, Canada's fun. I've been there several times. But I don't know where the Royal Canadian Mint is, though. But then there's 2 more links. And these are like people who definitely should do this. Like, well, you actually should do this tomorrow evening because I didn't know this, right? But SD Bullion's got this thing going now on Facebook. They've got this thing where if you enter in by 11:59 tomorrow night, and I think it's that time. Don't hold me to that. I'm pretty sure it's that time. But if it's by tomorrow night, the 24th, Thursday night, you enter in what the spot price is going to be closing for Friday in silver, you win a free ounce of silver. With gold, you win a 1 ounce, not 1 ounce. You win a 1 gram PAMP in assay gold bar.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty cool. And none of this stuff, we're not saying, hey, go out and buy silver, go out and buy gold. No, we're saying these are like 3 ways that you could win free stuff right now. So those are pretty cool, Mike.
Yeah, so I'll put that in the description there so people can get a chance to just further get a chance to get your weight up a little bit if you're interested. So I'll put that in there.
Yeah, I remember I got that silver nailed. I nailed silver that one time when we had our contest, except I was way off on gold. But, they're not going to let me in on it anyway. So I'm not even going to pretend to share what my call will be for the closing price this Friday.
Yeah, man. Okay, so let's check in with the chat and see if we missed anything. And so phone lines should be good to go. I think it was requesting that I add some credit or whatnot, so I think I put a couple dollars on the phone, paid my phone bill. So Skype should be good to go. So low blood pressure, if you're still there, give us a call. I'd love to hear your voice if that is the case. So should be good there. Let's just scan through the chat. Anything standing out thus far on your end?
One thing is, best prices for silver is at Silver Doctors. Well, actually, it's SD Bullion, right? Not Silver Doctors, it's separate. But better than JM Bullion NatMex. Yes. And why is that? Because they will match that price, right? So, I mean, if it's not something weird, right? You can't have something weird like, I don't know, like whatever a weird promotion would be, like buy one and get one 20% off, and in addition to that, get free shipping if you also include it. So if it's like a whole bunch of hoops you got to go through to price match, it's not like that. But if it's basically like we got a Silver Eagle and we're selling it, and I'm giving an example, $20, and over here it's $19.75, they'll give you $19.75 for it. So yeah, that's why I say that yes, they do have the best prices.
Yes, sir. Okay, so let's. I don't see any direct questions. If anybody has any thoughts or whatever, just at Silver Doctor, so to highlight it in orange, we'll see it on our side, and we can definitely get the question answered. Or, call in 567-336-0844. Should be working. And then I want to shift to the next conversation topic because something I came across this morning, and I've been talking about now for the last couple of days, is what's currently going on down in Chile with the social unrest. because it's one of the things that's fresh. It's literally still going on now. And so I have, several of my friends down there I follow on social media and whatnot. And so they posting videos. And one of my guys, Patricio, posted a video earlier this morning. And it's people out on the streets on one of the main roads down there. And I think they either hijacked the bus or what, I don't know. But they drove the bus. It was a 2-tier bus, one of the ones with they got the little whatever in between. So it's a big bus. They drove it into a building, like, wow. And they in the streets cheering. I'm thinking like, wow, like they just drove a bus into a building, but people are on there excited. So, watching their post feeds and whatnot, I get a chance to stay up to date. And actually, texting one right now, trying to get him on the show and get his thoughts on what's going on. So, but what's most notable in this whole ordeal is that the government's response. And so I'm going to put up on the page here something that's relatively fresh, because it's one of the things where to bring some sort of comfort and ease, it looks like Panera, the president there, is looking to increase the universal basic pension system as a way of helping calm down fears, because once again the pension system down there is problematic. But he's looking to increase pensions by 20%. And so I'm thinking like Chile is, they're not really struggling, I don't think. I don't know the exact financial books or whatnot. But can they really afford to increase public pensions by 20%? And that's just for the older generation. That has nothing to do with the protesters, which are the young kids, the college students out there protesting. And so some of the other benefits I have in this article here of what he's proposed is to lower the electricity cost and to cover all expenses for medical treatment moving forward. And freeze tariffs on electricity, whatever. So they're trying to bribe the citizens to dial back some of the violence and them making more promises. Mm-hmm. And so the promises cost, remind you, So the very fact that they're offering all of these types of perks and benefits for people to go back to somewhat a sense of normalcy, I don't think it's going to work, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. And how's it going to be paid for? That's the other question, right? Because we talk about like stuff like the what was it, like Confessions of an Economic Hitman or whatever the book. I can't remember exactly what the book was called, but yeah. Is the IMF going to go in there and give them a loan where that in 10 years they're going to have to do austerity because they tried to put out a fire right now, even though they didn't really put it out because all they're doing is adding on more debt. So promises, they can promise all they want, but like, it's like here, right? If, the government's already in debt, if you're going to do more, how's it going to get paid for? And, Chile, it's not like they have the dollar. They can't just print up, so you're just talking about pure inflation at that point. If they're talking about they're going to increase it by 20%, well, how are they going to do that? Just fire up the printing presses.
Yeah. Very interesting. And so as you're talking, I'm looking at my phone, and so one of my friends is texting me about how he's saying that the Chilenos right now on the street, they're really protesting right now. They won't change. And so here's the thing. What does change look like in this current environment? And then 2, how will the people who are requesting change recognize it, other than just them being promised something or being told what they want to hear? So the problem is all we've known is controlled political, monetary environment. So how would you even begin to know what change looks like, given the fact it's never been a part of their history, especially? So it's one of the things where it sounds good in theory, but it's going to be much harder to implement, and I believe it's going to get worse before it gets better. And then, I'm going to change the subject because I can go on this forever. As of October 27th, which is next week or the end of this week, whatever that is, Argentina presidential primary elections begin, and Macri will not win more than likely, and therefore there will be political chaos in the country of Argentina to follow. It's something I'm predicting, because that's literally a socialist party will be back in play, and I know what's going to happen. They're going to print like never before, and it's going to be a hot mess down in that region of the world, in my opinion. Yeah, and you see in Latin America, in Mexico and Chile, we see these in real time. We see these right now. When they take to the streets, like they literally take to the streets. It's not like a protest here where you might have, a couple people with their picket signs. But no, they take to the streets and they block traffic, right? They set up burn blocks. Stuff. They burn stuff.
And like this causes like literally like the city or the country to come to a standstill. So think about that too, right? This is also going to like affect the country's GDP. That's one, because you're crippling, right? I mean, obviously it's in protest, right? So that's, you know, a good thing in that sense, but it's crippling the country's GDP. And then on top of that, it's costing the government extra to have to deal with it. So you're having a crippled GDP, you're having the government spend extra resources to contain and stop it, but they're still going to add on additional promises on top of that. It's just like this does not look good for the future, Mike. I mean, I don't like to be doom and gloom, but unfortunately that's how my brain is wired, I guess.
It's not necessarily that you're being doom and gloom, it's just reality, man. It's just where we're at now, and it's just so much pent up tension amongst the population that it's just a matter of time before it has to give. And it's unfortunate it's going to give in a very negative sense like we're seeing, but it's ultimately positive because it's what's needed. People need a way to express their frustrations. They do it the wrong way, but yet they don't know anything different because, once again, we're witnessing a global shift in how things have been done. And so it's going to be violent at first, and hopefully from this, like always, there'll be some viable solutions that will be given to the public. My only concern is, like, you know, the whole request for change. Most people don't know what change means and how change should be less of the very powers that be that have oppressed humanity, and more self-empowerment is what this is all about. Giving people the right to choose and to lead their own lives is what the ultimate change should be. But I don't see that happening the way.
The other thing is they want immediate change. So like you said, how are you going to be able to see results right now? You know, right. I mean, are they going to set up government distribution centers where they're going to start handing out bags of groceries? I mean, that would be immediate results. But you know, I don't think that it's that level, right? I don't think they're starving in the streets like Venezuela. I think it's other types of social chaos and unrest.
Oh man! All right, I forgot. But I got another article to share with you.
Bring it on, Mike. Bring it on.
All right. So this is another fresh one from the day that I came across. And so listen to this one. Venezuelans bartering food, cigarettes to pay for gas amid inflation. And it shows pictures here of a guy handing out a cigarette to the gas person that's going to give him some gas in his car. And he's giving him a cigarette. The next picture is a person holding a bag of rice, a bottle of oil, and some sugar that was received as payment for some gas, and on and on and on. You know what I'm saying? So a guy giving a guy a bag of rice. Yeah. So think about this. Like, gas is so cheap, and it's being subsidized by the government, which makes it that cheap. But people don't have the currency, and the currency is not worth anything to even exchange for the gas. So you're giving them actual goods and services in barter form. And these are government gas stations. So the government gives them sugar and rice. They give the sugar and rice back for the gas. So it's unbelievable, man.
And you know, the pumpers out there want you to think that they're using Bitcoin for all this stuff. They're not, right? You don't want, you know, if you're a smoker, you want cigarettes, you don't want Bitcoin. If you're hungry, you want rice and cooking oil, you don't want Bitcoin. You know what I mean? So like, this is real world stuff. This is what happens here. You know, and this is just that desperate scramble, you know, to just scraping by, doing whatever you can to survive. Yeah. Which is why, you know, you're talking about self-empowerment. Yes, because, you know, when it comes down to it, when I need that gas, what does it have? What do I have that I can offer to get that gas? Right. Preferably, if I'm a smoker, which I'm not, but if I'm a smoker, I wouldn't want to give away my cigarettes, right? Because that's something I would want. Yeah. If I wouldn't want to give away my rice and my cooking oil, right? If food supplies were not only scarce, but there's inflation and everything. So I'd be looking for my services, right? I might try and repair somebody's computer to get that car filled up with gas. But yes, you know, and that's the thing, right? Because these protests in this chaos has to get to that level to where everybody says, you know what? The government can't do anything about my situation. I'm the only one who can do something about my situation. Yeah. You know, and right now it's just that entitled mind is the one that rules. And it's going to take a lot of people hitting rock bottom before they realize the only person that's going to help you is yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Very true. Very true. And so these are just, you know, we got Venezuela, we got what's happening down in Chile, we got other places we can't cover. Literally, if we probably tried to pinpoint every area that's not that's having unrest and having protests, we would probably go all day long, like just talking nonstop, just pinpointing what's going on. And it's one of the things where how can events like that not occur in the U.S. would be a question I would put out there to people who might think this is all, just some nonsense. Oh, we're too civilized. This will never happen here. Oh, really? Like, come on now. Like, I think another big problem is that Americans, in this portion of the planet, we've been fed this lie that we are exceptional, that we are better than, that we are greater than, that our economy is stronger than. That's not true. And so, like, for example, you have international experience. And so for those that are watching, if you travel and live beyond, you know the perception of the U.S. coming back in. And some countries, they feel sorry for us, even though they're worse off monetarily and financially. They feel sorry for us because we're so conditioned to think that the way we live now is free. Whereas there's other parts of this world where government is not heavily involved in their lives, and they are truly free in regards to being able to do whatever they want without having to get a parking ticket, driving ticket, all those things that have entrapped us. So yeah, it's interesting to get people's perspective from the outside looking in, but then also being able to see it from the inside looking out and being able to compare those two, which I think gives you a good background, gives you a good way of seeing things.
It does. Great points. And I want to bring up one comment that someone made in the chat because this is interesting. Someone just made like a quick snipe, right? Like computer repair and the economic collapse, laugh out loud. But I want to talk about that for a second because here's the thing, right? There's varying degrees of collapse, right? So if we talk about the United States turning into the third world, which I think that's what is happening here, right? I think that the rest of the world can only have their living standards go up while the United States only has their living standards go down. So when we think about stuff like this, I'm assuming that there's going to be electricity and that the internet's still going to be up and that the grid's still going to be up. Now, if that doesn't happen, then yeah, I'm not going to be doing computer repair, obviously. But think about this. What happens in the third world? In the third world, you hold on to your stuff longer and you fix it. You don't throw it away, right? So people haven't bought computers in a long time because they went on this tablet phase ever since the iPad came out. But I think that's ending now. And I think that they're going back to computers again because a computer can be repaired. It's more reliable. You can do more things on it. Just like the cars, right? If you're an auto mechanic, that's another great thing because people are going to be keeping their cars longer because, you got to pay it off for 7 years and the warranty's going out after 3. You know what I mean? So
and it's computerized. So the whole everything is digital now. So unless you got skills and got the equipment, it's going to be hard. So going back to them old clunkers will be worth your while, perhaps.
Yeah. So that's why I say, obviously, if we're in grid down, no internet coil switch and all that, yeah, that's a different story. But just in general, that's why I say is, gold, silver, and skills, Yeah. So get your weight up and get your skills up, too.
Get your weight up, get your skills up. Yeah. And then, as always, I can't not mention the importance of, regardless of where you at, the spiritual side of things, of really, from an inner sense, like there's so many things you can control outside, but yet internally, getting back to your core of your belief system, who your source really is in the form of what you believe, making sure you are standing on something solid will definitely do you justice because there are going to be things you can control and things you can't. And if you are caught looking for answers, you might be looking for answers in the wrong place, therefore putting yourself in greater danger, in my opinion. So.
Yes, well said. Great points.
Yeah, man. What else here? So let's go through the chat a little bit more, then we can get ready to dial back. We'll be approaching an hour point. And apart from a little hiccup earlier, we still got a chance to get a good little stream in us. And so probably be a part 1, part 2 series if that, or we can probably delete the first one and just keep this next one. So however it goes. But anyway, let me see. Any last thoughts out here? Anybody want to share with us? And if not, we'll dial back. I see some people talking back and forth. Not sure if they're directed to us.
Yeah, there's a lot of Bitcoin talk in there. Well, I guess the Facebook Libra thing is, that's big today, right? Yeah. And it's interesting because it's almost like distractionary. It's like, let's focus on this over here while behind the scenes they're getting ready to do some magic trick with the dollar that everybody's going to get blindsided with. And
so let's watch this. So to comment on the Bitcoin aspect, because we have similar but yet different perspectives on just that technology itself. And so I was speaking, so this goes back a couple of weeks ago, speaking to someone who's in Zimbabwe and them giving me a rundown on how things are turning out there. And he was like, Mike, one thing that is helpful for some is the fact that they have what they call e-money from their phones, where they transfer actual minutes from each other. And that's a form of currency in Zimbabwe that's really popular. And so he was saying that the people who have Bitcoin are able to do business and able to actually position themselves in a more favorable way because they have that type of opportunity. So Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, even though I believe they are designed to help usher in us into a solely digital economy in a very non-beneficial way for humanity in the long run, but for those that are in immediate need, such as Zimbabweans, Venezuelans, those movements provide an option along with physical metals, because once again, in Venezuela, they don't have gold and silver coin dealers on the corners like we do here in America. So the option for them will be certain types of coins that can be of use down there, just to transfer, just as transfer, not necessarily to store value, but it has its benefits for those. But Zimbabwe, from word of mouth from someone in Zimbabwe, it's been very helpful for him in particular. So, and also he's also a business owner down there, and it helps his business. So it has its benefits.
Yeah, it's different if you're looking at it from a business owner point of view than if you're looking at it from like the guy on the street is looking for the utility into the money as well, which is why you're talking about those phone minutes, right?
Yeah.
Because remember, money is utility as well, right? Gold and silver don't have to just sit there. They can also be used for something. Yeah. But Bitcoin truly can't be used for anything, right? Yeah. All it can be used for is sitting there. I mean, it can't be used for anything. So minutes can be used, right? That's something you can use.
Yeah. And then also, Bitcoin can be used as a method of payment. So the payment aspect, like there's another person out there, and there's several people here on the chat that will be more than willing for me to extend them a couple Satoshis or whatever in exchange for something of value to them, whether it be a cell phone or even a silver coin. Somebody out there be willing to exchange that medium of value. Whether or not it retains value, we'll see. But
that's my point. Right now, yes, there's demand right now. There's demand. I'm not denying that there's demand. So yes, there are people buying and selling Bitcoin. That is absolutely certain, and you're right. But once that demand goes away, there's not going to be people willing to do that anymore.
Right. Or disrupted, or some other alternative is put out there. That's one of the things that concern me. So But go ahead.
Yeah, and it's like, that going back to that Zuckerberg thing, he's talking about, we need to be, the United States needs to be in the leading edge of this new financial innovation. And, just when I think about these things, finance doesn't need to be re-innovated or innovated or anything like that, right? I mean, it's like a wheel is round. You don't want to go on a plan to make it triangular and somehow get it to move smoothly as it's on a tracked vehicle going down the street, right? I mean, that's not innovation. That's just, taking something that worked good and making it overly complicated at that point. Yeah. So I don't know why I went off on that little rant there, but
it's all good. That's what we do. Paul Havdon, that's what we do over here. But so it's past 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, so let's get ready to dial back. As always, it's been great hanging out with you guys this afternoon. Not sure how many people are tuning in. Let's find out how many people are watching us actually. Got 180 or so. Probably lost a couple when we had that little glitch. But with that being the case, one is better than none. So I appreciate you guys hanging out with us. And if you've enjoyed the back and forth, don't be afraid to donate a thumbs up. Just hit the little button on one of these sides here. Show your support. And if you found anything informative, feel free to share it. All the articles, share it with family and friends so people can find out what's going on outside this country. In anticipation of one day, perhaps, God willing, it doesn't happen, but there might be events similar to that here, and it's something that we should all be aware of, because right now is a great time to begin making preparations, whatever those preparations might be for you and your household. So other than that, that's pretty much it on my end. Stay prayed up, and God bless everybody. We'll see you guys later on between now and next Monday. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more news to talk about, so definitely catch you guys then. But other than that, peace.